Buck, welcome to the show. I'm AndroidVirus. How you doing?
Right on. Thanks for having me on, you guys.
Not a problem. You're a busy man.
You think? Maybe just a little bit.
Yeah, we've been trying to pin you down for maybe like a month and a half, 2 months.
I think so, yeah, but because I've been traveling. I was in Sweden, and I was in Mexico, and where was I? Australia. I was like all over the world.
Man, and you just got done being at Pride in Germany, right?
No, that was Sweden, actually.
Oh, Sweden. My bad.
Yeah.
And how'd that go for you?
Oh, it was amazing. It wasn't 2 years ago. I did Stockholm Pride, and this year I did a very small little town called Soderham, which had like 25,000 people. It was so bizarre being in such a small little town, coming from like LA, and there was like no people on the street. And then when they had Pride, 2,000 people showed up for Pride, which is pretty amazing.
That's cool. I mean, it's a bit different overseas than it is here in the States, I would say.
Yeah, but, Stockholm Pride gets thousands and thousands. So really, in comparison to that, having 2,000 people show up in a town that has 25,000 is a pretty amazing percentage, really.
That's so awesome. That is so awesome. Real quick, anybody out there listening, feel free to give us a call, 619-924-0762. We're talking to Buck Angel. You can follow Buck Angel at Twitter, at Buck Angel. And so tell us about your new website that you got going on.
Well, I have this series. It's called sexingthetransman.com, and it's actually a series of videos that I started to produce that are more sex educational. And what I like to call them is docu-porn. And what I do is I sort of interview these guys, in a very calm interview kind of scenario, and talk about their change and the hormones and how it's affected them. And then I have them, take their clothes off and talk about their bodies and how they become comfortable with their bodies sexually. And then I go into some type of sexual scenario. It could be masturbation, or it could be a scene with, having sex with somebody else. And I'm already on the 4th volume. It's just been such a huge success for me.
Oh, hell yeah. That's great. I checked out one of your videos, and me being a heterosexual male, right, watching it, I didn't, I wanted to watch it for educational purposes, and I was pretty fascinated. And I'm definitely not a prude, but it's just, it's interesting, and the dichotomy of what is Buck Angel, I'm sure you've gotten the question, by watching your movie Mr. Angel that is on Netflix, probably you knew your whole life that you were a lesbian, and then you made the change, and you're in a relationship, I hope, still with your wife.
Actually, no, I'm getting a divorce from my wife from the one that was in the movie. Yeah. Oh my God. You haven't been following the news?
No, I haven't.
God, we haven't.
I'm shocked.
Hilarious. You should be shocked, because you know what? I was shocked, too.
Wow.
We should all be shocked. I know. I was with that woman for 11 years. Incredible.
What happened, if you don't mind?
Well, no, of course not. Now it's public. It went out on TMZ. Let's see. It was on TMZ last week the day I got back from Stockholm. People were like, from Sweden. People were like, oh, my God, did you see TMZ? And I'm like, what? And then they had somehow found out. I have no idea about the divorce. And the reason it went on TMZ is because my ex, I like to call her my ex now just because it makes me feel a little bit better. But she is protesting our marriage as being illegal marriage, as saying that I'm actually not legally married and I haven't had a legal. I know. Oh. That's exactly what I said. What? Because if you watch my documentary, Mr. Angel, and I can tell you that that's all real. We had an amazing relationship. There was never, she always treated me like a man, and she respected our marriage, and our marriage is legal now. Yeah. But she's trying to fight the marriage now, saying that it isn't legal, and that because I haven't had a legal sex change, which, by the way, I have had a legal sex change, and I have had my birth certificate changed, and I have had every one of my documents changed to male. So I'm legally male in the United States and in the world, really. So I don't really, I think it comes down to finances. I think she just doesn't want to obviously I don't want to get too in depth with all the
Sure.
personal stuff there, but I just feel like that's what it feels like to me. It feels like it's more about something financial than it is. Yeah, I'm shocked, you guys. I really am shocked that somebody that I trusted with everything. When you're in an 11-year relationship, you trust. I mean, this person knows things about me that I probably have never said to anybody else, and you just spend a lot of time with that person, and yeah, I mean, I hate to start your show off with this negative.
It's rough, and go ahead, Sean.
Oh no, I was just saying that's shocking to me. It always seems to just when it gets bad like that, they always seem to find the bad things to dig their claws in and just really stick it in there.
Right. I mean, yeah, clearly I'm not the only man this has happened to. I mean, I am probably a very rare this situation. Her actually protesting that I'm actually male so that we can have our marriage annulled and saying it's not a legal marriage. That's probably very rare. But, that said, if people who don't know me or people who do know me know that I live my life with such a positive attitude, and I live my life with things happen and I learn from them. And, I don't hate Elaine at all. I'll tell you that right now. I do not hate that woman. I spent 11 years of my life with her, and I learned so much from her. And it makes me more sad than angry, I'll be honest with you. I'm just saddened by that. That said, I've moved on. I have no emotional attachment there. I mean, this happened in September of last year. And as you noticed, I've never said a word about it on the Internet ever because I wanted to keep it private because, as much as my life is so out there in the public eye, there are parts of my life I prefer to keep private. And the divorce and the split I wanted to keep private. So it never was something that I felt needed to be talked about. And then somehow it got leaked onto TMZ. And now now I'm sort of backed up into a corner and I have to talk about this because really what this is about is not – once I sat down and realized what was going on, I realized this isn't about me so much as it's about the LGBT community in the United States fighting for our rights to be married as gay people and trans people and lesbians. And if this situation that she's putting out there were to pass, it could, put gay marriage back a lot, for what we fought for.
I mean,
it could affect it.
It does seem to kind of negate the cause, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah, which is kind of weird. Are you still down in Mexico, or are you traveling so much?
I live in Los Angeles. I moved in after that happened because I don't going to go into it, but a lot of stuff happened to me in Mexico during that time. I moved to Los Angeles, and I moved to Los Angeles right after that. I was actually in Oslo, Norway, and then Washington, D.C. when she sprung the news on me. She basically said, don't come home. She basically said, I packed your stuff up, don't come home.
Oh,
and I'm
man.
Like, really? Really? Can't we just chat about this a little bit?
That's fucked up.
But luckily I have an amazing family. I have an amazing group of friends, and everyone just reached out to me. And, I moved to L.A. after that. And I still have a home in Mexico, and I go back and forth. But my residency is in Los Angeles, and it's been so since that happened. So it's been like 7 or 8 months.
And, Buck, you are an inspirational guy, and it's not – and it reaches further than – your gender identity or anything like that. I had a buddy of mine, Dusty B on Twitter. I was telling him, hey, I'm going to be interviewing Buck Angel because, we help run another website, killerreviews.com, and we review all kinds of movies, horror movies, documentaries, whatever. And he's like, I watched Buck's documentary. And keep in mind, this is coming from two heterosexual males, from Dusty and me. Like, he's like, I found Buck's story just so inspirational. Just awesome. And it wasn't. It was just a story of humanity. It transcends sex. It transcends all that shit, man. It's a story of humanity, and that's what I loved about your movie, and that's why I wanted to wanted to interview you so bad. It was amazing. And to watch, to throw your life out there in a documentary takes some balls, Yeah.
Thanks for saying that. I don't think people really understand that. I mean, the thing is that I've already been in the public eye for such a long time. It wasn't really that difficult for me. The part that was difficult for me was really bringing my family, because I've always kept my family sort of private, you know, and my mom and my dad and my sisters. Because of my adult work, people get weird, especially with mine. I mean, you know, as you see in the movie, I've had death threats and craziness, and I never wanted to have my family be put in some weird situation. So that said, you know, that was very difficult for me to sort of ask to have my family put in.
Sure.
The director asked me, and then I was like, oh, I'm not really sure, dude. But so now, of course, watching the movie, right, watching the film, if you're a filmmaker, you know when my dad breaks down and cries, that's basically gold for a filmmaker.
That's a real moment right there.
Yeah.
Hey, we got a caller on. Aaron from Connecticut has got a question for you, Buck, on confidence and loving himself, or yourself, I would guess you could say. What's up, Aaron? You're on with Buck Angel.
Hey, nice to be here.
Right on.
Hey.
Yes, what I wanted to ask was, you being a member of the LGBT community, and a strong one, I might add, I could see how confidence comes into play with your daily life and literally everything you do. How do you keep your head so high in the midst of all the stuff that's happened to you? I mean, there's a lot that's gone down mentally, spiritually, physically, and it's incredible to see somebody like you holding their head so high when society could give you every reason not to. How do you do it every day?
Yeah, thanks. That's an awesome question. You know, I think because I lived most of my life in fear and anger and hate, that once I really became physically myself and mentally myself, it just sort of came to me. I honestly, it's such a question that people ask me all the time. And what it is, I live through to myself. I do not answer to anybody else. I only answer to myself. I have my own morals, my own judgment, my own everything. And so I don't feel like I have to worry about what the world thinks about me, because for me, I can wake up every day and look in the mirror and not feel that I am anything other than that. So it gives me that confidence to say, oh, you know what, I just don't really care what you think about me. And that gives you so much confidence, really.
Wow. Thank you so much. That inspires me. Like, you have no idea.
Right on.
Right on, Aaron. Thank you so much for calling. Keep
Thanks,
listening,
Aaron.
all right?
Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye-bye. All right. So there you go, man. You got another fan. It's one of those things where, and I know I had been there myself, where you kind of get so deep into a hole, whether it be drug-induced, depression, whatever, that you can't get much further down than death. So it's kind of like when shit gets thrown your way, it's like, bring it on. Been there, you know.
Totally. And so, for example, with the thing with my ex-wife, you know, it was intense what happened to me. But then I just sat with myself for a couple of weeks all alone, and, you know, on this beach that somebody gave me to sit on in this place, and I just sort of reflected on my life a lot, and I said, my God, I came from like shit, you know, I came from like drug addiction, suicide attempt, blah, blah, blah. What's happening to me now really is just a learning. There's something I have to learn from this. And it's like, it's such a, I don't know, I sound sort of like a wingnut in a way, like, whoo, you know, just light some candles and meditate. It's not like that. It's sort of like really becoming this person where you have to look at the negative parts of your life and understand that you have to use them as a positive now. And so all of this shit that happened to me in my life, I now sort of sit and use it as a way that it can't get any worse. I lived on the streets, and I was a crackhead. You know what I mean? Like, it will work out. And my friend taught me this. It's a really great thing I think I can share with you and your listeners.
Absolutely.
Do not have fear, okay? You can't have fear. You can't have fear about money. You can't have fear about where you're going to live. You can't have fear about your job. You can't have fear, because fear creates fear, and fear creates negativity. So whenever you all of a sudden look at your bank account and you're like, oh, crap, you know what, I only have like $1,000 in my bank account right now. Don't have fear about it. Just go, okay, you know what? I'm going to manifest something and things are going to happen. And I swear to God, man, it's magic. things somehow work out. They always do if you let go of that fear.
Yeah, that's awesome. How important to you is your recovery?
You know, I've been I don't even like to call it sober at this point because I don't really feel part of that community anymore. Though that said, you know, it saved me, that community. Without that community and going into programs, I don't think I would be here. But I moved on in a sense where I realized that a lot of my addiction and a lot of the behavior stemmed from my gender problems and not feeling like a man and not being treated like a man and blah, blah, blah. And so when those things started to happen for me, it's been 22 years, maybe even more. I lost count from drinking and using drugs. And then I just don't, you know, I don't even think about it anymore. My life has people who drink in it, you know. My life has people who smoke marijuana in it. My life has people that don't do heavy drug usage at all. I would never be around that. But that's it. Like, it just doesn't affect me in a way that I feel like I need to do it because I love being in my body. You know what I mean? I don't need to be drunk to go to a party. I don't need to be drunk to have a conversation with somebody right now. I really love being present. And I think that has a lot to do with becoming clean and sober, is learning how to be in your body without being, you know, without being in a way that you're sort of in a fog.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
right?
I've been there myself personally, and you know, and nothing against to people who want to, you know, smoke weed or drink or whatever the case may be, but you know, for me personally, that shit doesn't work out.
Right, and that's the key right there. It's about you. So you know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. I'm not going to judge anybody. I'm not going to say anything. Go ahead. You know, there are people who can do that and function in life and are perfectly happy with it, and I think that's totally awesome. But for me, I can't do it. I don't want to do it. I enjoy having a life of freedom without any of those things. And, you know, it works for some of us and it doesn't work for some of us, and that's just the reality of it.
Absolutely. I'm gonna take it back a little bit to the beginning of our conversation, and right before we started talking about the divorce. What kind of confused me, and if you can educate me, is, you know, watching the documentary, we know that first you're a lesbian and then you became gender. And so people often you know, view you, you know, as a transgender man, but you're having sex with males on camera. Now, one question was, did that happen on camera? Did it happen before camera? Did you have sex with men before then? And do you enjoy it? You know, identifying with a lesbian, you know, even more so, I guess you could say. I don't know. I'm confused a little bit. I'm sure like a lot of people are.
You should be confused, my friend.
And not in a bad way. It's just like, it's intriguing. You know what I mean?
No, I love it. I love that you asked me those questions. There's going to be people out there who are going to be very upset that you say certain things. Or you know what? I am the most easygoing. You can ask me any question in the world. I do not take it personally. I feel like I'm an educator, and I feel like if you don't ask me these questions, you will never get the answer. You know, it's fine. Some people don't feel comfortable talking about it, and I respect that. Some people in the trans community don't want to talk about their bodies, don't want to talk about their genitals, don't want to talk about sex, and I completely and totally respect that. But you know what? I do, and I think it's very important for you to ask me those questions so that I can now answer them, and then whoever listening to your show, your 100,000 listeners, can also understand it and also go to their friends and say, I heard Buck say this. And it gets, you know what I mean? So going to that question, here's the deal. I don't identify as a lesbian woman, and I did identify as a lesbian woman when I was a woman. I'm no longer a woman, and I live my life as a man. So right now, how I identify my sexuality is as a sexual person. I don't identify it really as gay or straight or lesbian or bisexual or any of those things. I just am really sexually attracted to people. And so if that person happens to be in the gender of a male, then that's so be it. Or if that happens to be a gender of a female, then or a trans person or whatever. It's just for me about energy, and you know. So I do have sex with men and women. In my films, I have had sex with men before I started shooting pornography, and that's kind of what my Sexing the Trans Man series is about, because it happens to a lot of guys like me. A lot of us were sexually attracted to women when we were in our female bodies. and never really attracted to men before that. And through the use of testosterone, or even through our change, a lot of times our sexuality sort of changed with it. I mean, I can tell you it happened to me. I never was sexually interested in men before. And then when I started becoming a man, something happened. And I'm pretty sure a lot of it had to do with my testosterone usage, because it really amps up your you really become like a horny pig. And like I can pretty much probably think that's what it feels like to be a 14 or 15-year-old boy, right? Going through puberty, you can't.
I mean, like
right?
jacking it raw 7 times a day, absolutely.
That said, I would say I'm emotionally more attracted to women, and I feel like I get my emotional needs met. Oh, I hate saying that. It sounds so whatever, but I get emotional. I just feel like I get that with women, whereas sexually, usually with men, it's just totally straight out sex, good time, see you later, probably never see you again, and that's that. So.
That's what do you track? Do you notice you track hetero men or more like gay men?
No, but you know what's so weird? It's gay men for sure. But you know what's so weird is that, well, I don't know weird, but since my film came out, like your friend said, he's like, wow, like, there has never been a bigger audience of straight cisgender men who are not necessarily sexually attracted to me, but are listening to me and sort of, into what I have to say and are learning from me. And I swear to God, for me, that's the most powerful thing that has come out of my film, because, historically those straight men have not necessarily wanted to talk with me and have not necessarily liked me in many ways, because like, how I speak about being a man without a penis, and you don't need to be a man you don't need a penis to be a man. And I felt a lot of straight guys felt really sort of pissed off about that, because I think a lot of men are really really identify themselves with their penis in a way, right? I mean, you guys can tell me how that works. That's what my experience with straight men has been.
Yeah, and go to mentioning to not only attracting not necessarily like you said sexually straight men, interested in you have to say as far as being an emotional person. I'm sure straight women, or hell, even maybe bisexual women or women who have a couple drinks in them and like to get on with another woman,
right,
are coming to you and saying that you're a good-looking man. I can personally attest. My wife. We watched the documentary together, and he's like, she goes, her name's Rachel. Rachel goes, Buck's fucking hot, and I'm just like, I was like, it's just like a good-looking man, like beautiful smile, strong. Buck's like a good-looking man, and I'm like, cool, I'm glad you. My wife's and I relationship is totally non-jealous. I mean, we're definitely not like open, relationship or anything like that, but we're non-jealous people. She could tell me somebody's hot, I could tell her somebody's hot. It's no big deal.
Right on.
But for her being, in so many words, a straight woman, to say Buck is a good-looking man. I mean, are you getting women like that as well?
Oh yeah, it's incredible. Like how many, like straight women are like saying exactly that. So for me, what's so great about that? It's not so, oh, great, I have all these people like attracted to me. For me, it's more about being able to show the world that sexuality is so fluid, and that, you can be attracted to people, like I said earlier. And, probably 10 years ago, a straight woman would never say that to me, because she would be worried that people would think she was a lesbian, or people would worry that she's freaky or whatever. But now it's just like, people are just saying that now, and I think that really comes into play with how the world is changing, and understanding that gender and sexuality are just these things that are progressive and fluid, and people don't necessarily have to check the male box, the female box, the gay box, the lesbian box. You know what I mean? They can just check the I'm a pig box, and it's all good.
There you go. How's the testosterone replacement thing going on? I noticed on the thing that maybe there was a little bit of concern about it, but do you feel like you started taking this testosterone injections like a little bit more aggressive or a little bit more quicker to fly off the handle about things?
No, I think that's a total myth, and I think people say, okay, you have to understand, I take testosterone. I don't take a series of steroids, which are completely two different things. And my testosterone levels are checked. I take a very small amount of testosterone, every 10 days I inject myself. It's more like you. It's like, because I don't have testicles, I don't produce testosterone. So basically my testicles are in a syringe. Do you know what I mean? So it's the same thing. I'm just producing it through a needle. And in fact, I have to tell you, I was a much more angry person prior to my change. And when I started my, I'll use the word sex change, even though that's really very old and not much used anymore in the community, but maybe for your listeners so they understand. But when I had, my change, I was angry. And when I started to take the testosterone, I totally leveled out, and I totally became happier and focused and less angry. And I think that's because I became myself. So I do think that steroids could possibly make you an angry freak, but I don't see much evidence of that. I think that that's some other stuff going on with people, and I don't know. I think that's just a myth, if you ask me.
Absolutely. Hey, we got Harvey on. He has a compliment for you and a question for you, right, Buck? Give me one second.
Right on.
Harvey, what's up? You're on the AndroidVirus and Sean show with Buck Angel.
Hi, it's Hardy, actually. But
Hardy, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to tell Buck.
It's my buddy, Hardy. Hi.
I just wanted to tell you that the stuff that you do constantly makes me proud that you're on our board of the organization I'm with. And you are a pioneer and somebody out there on the forefront of sexual freedom, and I just appreciate you. And I don't know if you get enough compliments as it is, but I just thought I'd throw another one in there.
Well, first of all, it doesn't matter how many I get. The fact that you call in and take the time and call me means you love me, which is the most amazing thing in the world. I love you too. And he's speaking of the Woodhull Sexual Freedom Alliance, which is an organization that we're board members on, and it's it basically fights for our rights, our rights as humans and as our sexual freedom rights, to be and do and have however we want, because people try to block that all the time. So I'm really, it was amazing when I got, nominated onto that board, and Hardy was one of the guys who I think you were the one who nominated me to come to the board, were you not?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, right on. So it's been an amazing thing for me, and I just feel so excited to be part of that organization. It's doing so many good things in the world.
That's awesome.
I didn't want to interrupt too much. I just tell you, I'll see you in August at the summit, and can't wait.
Right on.
Take
Thanks,
care.
buddy. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Hey, thanks for calling, Hardy.
Absolutely.
Wow,
He's
Buck,
a good guy.
you got your hands on all kinds of shit.
I totally do. I have so many things going on, I forget, to say, but the Woodhull Sexual Freedom Alliance is really an important organization, and, for any of us, and you don't have to be in pornography, or you don't have to be in polyamorous relationship or LGBT or any of that. You just have to like sex. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you like sex, that's why this organization is important, because people don't understand that there's a war out there, especially in the United States, where people are trying to take our rights away, our rights to have sexual freedom, which means it can mean anything from what you do privately in your bedroom to what kind of sex toys you buy to what you watch on TV to, who you love. I mean, it's just this huge amount of things that people don't understand, or, people are trying to take those rights away from us. So organizations like the Woodhull Sexual Freedom Alliance is an extremely important organization.
It's definitely a slippery slope. I've had conversations with my father, who I would say is pretty conservative. Love him, nonetheless. We love our parents. We didn't choose our parents. My dad, loving guy. But you get the argument with definitely some religious people. Well, what's next? You can marry an animal. It's like, come on.
Right.
Nobody's going to be marrying a fuck. Here's my thing. Nobody's going to be marrying a fucking animal. Nobody's going to be marrying somebody with Down syndrome or an IQ of an 8-year-old. That's not going to happen.
Right.
These are consenting adults who choose to live it's kind of weird because freedom. We talk about freedom in the United States, and it's such a. I guess you could say there's so much strife going on right now because then you got, maybe if somebody who's a Christian who's just like, hey, well, this is just what I believe, and then they lose their job because they speak out for what they believe, and it's just like on the other hand, I don't think that's right either. For somebody to say, hey, this is what I believe, and then they lose their job. But it's just like I wish people, especially in the States, just live and let live, accept each other's differences. You want to worship Jesus, cool. Whatever the case may be. But it just seems like there's so much fucking strife here in the United States, and it's driving me nuts, man.
It should drive you nuts because it doesn't make any sense. The only thing I can equate that to is the fact that people are easily brainwashed. And I believe that when I speak a lot when I do public speaking, I always come to an end of my talks and I talk about being brainwashed and I talk about deprogramming yourself and I talk about understanding that a lot of the thoughts and the things and the actions and the way that you do things is because you've been programmed to think this way. And all of that programming is bullshit. It's all of that way that these people are supposed to be this way, these people are, it's all, and I really believe that I have really shown the world that a lot of the things that you're taught are complete bullshit. I've shown that you can be a man however you want to be a man, right? You don't have to mark the boxes of gay, straight, or whatever. I have sex with everybody. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm a happy person. Yeah. It doesn't matter. I don't follow the rules, so that said, I think a lot of the problem is that people don't think for themselves. People are easily swayed into believing that, for example, which, I do use, organized religion does that for people. And I think people find, and I'm not anti-Christian or any of that at all. I think that it's very important, and I think that but what I do find is a lot of the organized religion does put a specific thought into people's head, and then they think that they have to believe that. And a lot of times it creates hate and it creates separation as opposed to, just taking it on and thinking for yourself and making your own decision.
It's a slippery slope, It,
yeah, totally.
It is, and Sean, my partner Sean, he kind of does the production of the show, and we have a conversation. I do a lot of the interviews, and Sean put it to me the best way. We were talking about racism, and Sean had the funniest thing to say. He goes, you want to know how I know I'm not racist? And I'm like, why? And he goes, because if I'm looking at porn and I see a black girl on there and I get hard, I know I'm not racist.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, that's like just so like perfect, like to sum it up,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so sad. I spent a lot of time in Europe, and it's like people are just they tend not to have such uptightness about everything. In the United States, everybody's so uptight about everyone's, this law and that rule, and you're not supposed to be this way. And then when you travel to other countries, people are like, they look at Americans like, what's wrong with you people? Like, chill out already. You know what I mean? And I'm not sure if it's because we're such a young country that we're just sort of still like the Wild West, and we're all like, blah, and everyone's just freaked out on everyone else.
And it kind of, and like I said earlier, it's on both sides of the pendulum. It's not only is it's like almost people are just really overly sensitive. I mean, I understand the human rights, and to me, Buck, you're more of a humanitarian than anything. It transcends sex. It's a human right. It's a human element, and it has nothing to do with I'm going to turn your kid gay because they're seeing me blah 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 do this or do that, or speaking or whatever or I'm in a march or whatever the case may be. It's not. It's beyond that. It's just about being a human being and having your right to marry who you want to marry.
Well, in all things. I mean, the thing is this: like, if people would look at history of America and the history of all of the stuff, no one's ever really been happy. Everyone's really just been angry about who fits here and who fits there. Right now, the world is changing. I'm telling you right now. Trans stuff is becoming more upfront. People are talking about it. Gay. People are just sort of getting sick and tired of having to answer to these specific rules that who invented. So, whether or not you're going to be on board or not, it's going to change whether you like it or not. So the thing is like, just learn to start understanding that the world needs to change, because historically it hasn't really worked.
Absolutely.
It hasn't really worked the way. So we need to make a change and a shift, and let's make a positive change and shift.
Exactly, and I mean, it kind of goes back to, I have a 14-year-old daughter who boxes and wrestles and does mixed martial arts. Has been doing it for 4 years.
Right on.
And she's a badass, and my wife's father's like, she shouldn't be doing that. She's a girl. She shouldn't be boxing. This is 2014. Come on, seriously, fuck it. Let her. If this is, she's happy, and she's like, Dad, I'm feeling. I'm like, what are you feeling today? She goes, I feel like I need to punch somebody, and I need to get punched in the face. And I'm like, all right, cool. Let's go to the gym.
I love her. She's awesome. Way to go.
Yeah.
And see that? Like, only boys can do that. Like, who said that? Who invented that?
Yeah, no, girl. I'm sure if you had that, when you were growing up,
Oh, okay. I totally had that. And then I grew up in the 70s, right, when it was like a whole different. I got teased all the time for being like a boy, and I beat up all the boys in school, and I would get in trouble for beating up the boys, and they would bring me into the office and they would say, you know what? You're a girl, and you shouldn't be beating up on the boys. But they wouldn't say something to the guys who were talking shit to me. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you look at it, it's quite interesting that I was the one getting in trouble for beating up the boys.
That's hilarious. How going back to your documentary, and your father bared his soul. I mean, he cried.
Yeah.
And I never really understood why he was crying.
Yeah. I'll tell you why. Because he takes it. He does take it on himself, the reason that I am the way I am. He really feels that, my dad influenced me a lot, especially in my masculinity. My dad is super hyper masculine, ex-football player, total man's man. And that was my male influence. And that's, how come I think I am wanting to be so ultra hyper masculine in that sense. And so I think, my dad didn't have a son. He had, 3 daughters. And so he really wanted to have a son, and in a way I was the chosen person to be that. And I think really that my parents just had that energy from me, because I was supposed to be male. I really believe that. And so why didn't he pick my other sisters? And so my dad just took it upon himself, and he has this guilt that he thinks that I am the way I am is because he, it's his guilt of that maybe he made me the way I am, and he doesn't know how to forgive himself for it. But he doesn't understand it has nothing to do with him, really.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, did maybe he feels like he failed or failed you, but at the same time, you're completely, in my opinion, you're cool. you're cool with where you're at, and it was just. It was just amazing. I mean, I guess the more, maybe it's my generation and your generation. I was born in '76, but me and my wife have had the conversation of like, hey, what if one of your kids came to you and said, what if they said, hey, I'm gay, and I tell them, I love you, no matter what. I love you, and it doesn't matter as long as you're with somebody who treats you good. That's all I care about.
Yeah, thank you. You know what? That's so awesome that you say that, and you say that publicly, because more people and more parents need to hear that. I mean, my parents love me now. There's no doubt in my mind my parents love me. They accept me. I'm their son. But they went, and I'm going to take total responsibility here. I'm going to tell you that it's not, I was a complete little asshole, going through my drug addiction and the things you do and the things I did to my parents and the horrible time in a childhood and trying to commit suicide. And I know you as a parent could probably think about if your child was doing, fighting all the time, flunking out of school, you're like, what's wrong with my kid? I completely feel responsible for a lot of the anguish that my parents went through. But that said, we've patched that up, and we've become adults in a family again. And, my parents love me unconditionally at this point. And so, that's what I hope that the documentary shows to some parents out there, that if you're having problems with your kids, it can be fixed. you just have to learn how to unconditionally love and understand that everyone is an individual, and that's just how life is.
And I was going to ask you the question, or Sean was going to ask you the question of what do you think your life would have been had you been able to run that track meet?
Right.
But talking to you, you weren't meant to run that track meet.
I know, right on, dude. Totally. That's what I'm saying when I said earlier, like, all the shit that happened to me. I mean, thank you, God, because that's why I am the person I am today. It made me strong. You know, I don't know. I might have gone on to become a huge champion runner because I was on that verge, you know, of having an opportunity to, you know, become this person. And so who knows? I mean, there was many times in my life, you know, when I was a female fashion model, there was agencies up the wazoo after me, major, huge modeling agencies that, you know, wanted to make me into a, you know, basically, you know, a top model and a huge fashion model. And, you know, I just was drinking and snorting coke and doing all kinds of, you know, every drug you can imagine. I was having the time of my life, but I wasn't showing up for any of the work. And, you know, that doesn't happen. You know, they'll dump you after that. So, you know, maybe I would have been, you know, like a big supermodel or something. That would be hilarious.
So you're taking acid back then, Buck?
Oh my God, I probably did like at least 500 hits of acid for sure.
What the fuck?
Sure. I'm not even kidding, dude. I would do it every week. Sometimes I would take 2 or 3 hits a day. Like I sometimes I don't even know how I'm here, and honestly, I don't even know how I'm talking to you right now. I should be completely out of my mind. My brain fried for sure. Like I took so much acid. Oh my God, I was like addicted to that stuff.
Yeah, that's no good. Because I know I did it. And I know I did it, and I was like, okay, one more time, I'm not coming back. So
yeah, totally. I
better chill out.
Yeah, I mean, really, I think my brain sort of, from being 2 years or so sober from stuff, I think maybe my brain sort of rejuvenated in some way because I haven't been doing it. But I used to just eat that stuff like candy. Ecstasy, cocaine, crack, whatever you put in front of me, dude, I would eat that stuff.
And it was for you. It maybe went beyond experimentation. It was probably more of a self-destructive thing, you know.
Clearly, yes, it was most definitely that I did not want to see the world, and I did not want the world to see me, and I wanted to be in my little black hole of drugs and alcohol, and I didn't want to function, and I didn't, you know, and you know, I wanted to kill myself, and you know, I was a cutter. I would take the razor blades and cut my arm and cut my face, and just total self-destruction all the way around, and you know, that's why it's just like, wow, I'm really here. Like, how could I be an angry person? I can't be an angry person because I just am so grateful for my life now that I get to be a man and looked at like a man in the world, and people respect me for it, and they want me to be on, you know, you want me to be on your radio show and talk to you, and like, how can I be an angry person? I just can't. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, you're big to do. I mean, and I'm not saying that like in such a, you know, like it, you know, just trying to get you pinned down, like I said at the beginning, was really, really tough. And I'm like, man, I hope Buck comes on our little radio show. I mean, we interview everybody from, you know, musicians to film directors to porn stars. You know, we have so many different people, and we have such a dichotomy. And our show is actually pretty comedically based, you know.
Right on.
But in order to come from that direction, I think that you need to be open to everything, you know.
I agree.
I think that you need to not only accept whoever the person is, whatever the person is. Here's my thing. As long as you're not raping, molesting, murdering, beating, or robbing, you know, you're okay, you know. Like,
right on. Yeah, I mean, consensually, you know, if everything is consensual, then it's all cool. But if you're doing fucked up shit out there, then yeah, it's not okay. You can't be doing that. But, you know, that said, I don't know how little your radio show or whatever it is. It doesn't matter to me. The fact is that you reached out to me, and that says a lot about you guys as people. And for me, I don't have that ego thing going on. I don't have any of that going on. For me, it's about you guys want to spread my message, and that is the most important thing for me. So, I mean, I just have to tell you that I feel very, you know, I always feel honored when people like you reach out to me and say, you want to be on my show? And I'm like, fuck yeah, dude, because your listeners might not even know who I am. And then now they're going to know who I am. And that's so awesome for me to be able to go on different I don't need to only be on LGBT, stations. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir in a sense, right? So I need to be on shows like yours who don't necessarily understand somebody like me, and hopefully when they listen to this and they walk away and they're like, oh, that's so cool, like I totally get it now, and I don't feel all angry or weird about it. I totally get it.
Absolutely. We got a question coming in from Pat Breeding. He says, Dream Team, make it happen, Buck Angel and Bailey J.
Right. Bailey's my girlfriend, and we're like everyone for years. Everyone. I think because I can't remember if we were both on Howard Stern or if we were both on some show on opposite times. But ever since then, people have just been like, come on, we got to do a scene. But I don't shoot anymore. I haven't shot a scene in porn in like probably almost 2 years, maybe 3 years. I don't do that anymore. I just direct and produce now.
Yeah, I was going to say, does it seem like that is your speaking engagements, your producing, all that fun stuff? I was going to say, you're not having to perform anymore, right?
Yeah, no, and that was my goal was to do it, get in there, make a genre, open the porn business up to something they've never seen before, and make something, because I feel that my work is very positive, and then move away from it and let more guys come in and do it. And that hasn't really happened. There's 1 or 2 people that are doing it, but that's why my Sexing the Trans Man stuff is so important, because I'm bringing more guys into it, and I get to sort of be behind the scenes. I don't really particularly, no disrespect, but I don't particularly want to be an 80-year-old porn star. There's some people out there that want to get at 80, but that's not really my goal at this point.
Well, some of us, sometimes we're feeling a little, funny, and we want to look at that. We don't mind looking at, granny porn.
Have you
some
seen
of
it?
us.
Of course you've seen it, because I've seen it. So we're all Googling granny porn. Like I have to prepare myself for that one. And I'm like, no disrespect, whatever turns you on, but I'm like, not really sure that I can get into this one here.
Well, it's kind of like for me, and I'll speak personally. Growing up, I always knew I loved women, and I never liked girls, so to speak. I always went for either an overdeveloped girl my age, or when I was like in my later teens, or 20s, I always went for an older woman. And I don't know what it is. I've always been attracted to the older women. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I have an attraction for older women too. Not necessarily. I'm not really into the girl thing myself.
Yeah, well, that like they said, there's a joke out there that there's a reason why they call it Girls Gone Wild, because if they called it Women Gone Wild, there'd be babies, drowned in the bathtub, and men's penises getting cut off.
Right. Oh, that's hilarious. I've never heard of that.
So Buck, do you got anything you want to promote before we let you go?
No, you pretty much promoted it. My website, my Sexing the Trans Man is my thing that I'm really, sort of on now. And the Woodhull Sexual Freedom Alliance has their conference in August. And if you just, you go to Woodhull, sexualfreedomalliance.com, then you'll see it. And, that's something that's very dear to me and awesome and really important. And other than that, I'm just traveling. If you're interested in me, just check out my website and check out my Twitter and my Facebook. And I'm always traveling somewhere. So, if you want to see me speak, check out my calendar, and hopefully I'll be around. Where are you guys located? In San Diego?
No, I'm in New Mexico.
New Mexico. Because I was looking at the area code, and I'm like, where are you guys? I think I'm supposed to come to Albuquerque.
What?
Maybe. Yes. Is that where you're located?
Yeah. When are you coming?
You're in Albuquerque?
Or I'm in Albuquerque.
Right now, it could be August or September. It's for a new film festival that they're putting together, a transgender film festival. So we should definitely stay in touch. Maybe we could hang out or something.
I'd love to hang out with you, get and sit down and talk to you and have a face to face, man. And I mean, and it's funny, you look at me and you look at like metal bands like Slayer and stuff like that. That's what I'm into. Like I've long hair, goatee, tattoos, metal shirt, So I'm totally not like what people would picture. You know what I mean? But hey, man, I'm a metalhead and I like horror movies and I love humanitarian shit. You know, go figure.
Well,
I don't know.
A lot of the metal people are that, and I have a huge amount of metal fans actually, and I think it's because you guys live your life like that too. Like just whatever. You have that I don't give a shit attitude. Like this is who I am and this is what I like. So I think that we sort of have the same understanding on those levels. So I think that's why we come together that way.
We're a tribe, us metalheads.
Right on.
Like you can go. I could go to Colorado. I could go to California. Hell, I can go to Sweden, and you see somebody and you know that they're metal, and you're just like,
true.
devil horns. Fuck yeah, we're metal. You know what I mean? And you
Sweden is big on metal. They have a huge amount of like metal stuff going on there.
Absolutely. Now, Buck, you follow. I think you follow our show on Twitter. I'm AndroidVirus on Twitter. Follow me. I'll DM you, man. Let's keep in touch.
Right
I'd love to hang out with you and hook up with you when you get out to Albuquerque, and we'll have a sit down. And thank you so much for taking your time and coming on to our show.
Thanks, you guys. I'll talk to you soon.
Be safe, Buck. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.